we just want to start by telling you a little bit about us. And so many of y'all might know us. You see me on the radio, true. No, some of y'all may be members of the church and some of you may not. And so let's tell them a little bit about us.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm gonna let you start.
Okay.
Tell them where we met.
We met in 1988 at Western Kentucky University.
Yeah.
I was registering for class. Stacy was working there during the summer. And so when I saw he came out, I was with my friend girls, we were registering. Then we see this young man come out, pulling this cart.
Was the waves popping?
The waves were popping,
so
everything
waves.
was good. So he pushed it out. Saw him. We were like, oh wow, we're gonna really enjoy college, but didn't really meet him. I saw him a number of times because he was like in and out. He was almost like a phantom. And so when we did meet, was in a choir. And I was like, okay, let me speak to him. But I mean, that's a long.
And here's how I pushed up on her. So she was in choir practice, and she came in. She was chewing on some chewing gum. So I was the chaplain of the choir, and I was like, excuse me, you're gonna have to take that gum out of your mouth. And she was like, and she took her gum out. She'd act like she didn't want to, but I called her. I heard she was asking about me, so I called and I called her, and she was asleep. And she later told me, she said she was knocked out, but when she heard my voice, she sat up in the bed, acting like she wasn't asleep.
Exactly.
And I said, I heard you've been asking about me. And
what did I say?
She said, yeah, I heard you got a girlfriend too. And I said, well, we could be friends. She said, I could use another friend. But anyway, it was a charm. She could not resist my charm. And
that was it.
And then if you go to the next slide, in 1993, when I was in graduate school in Louisville, Kentucky,
look at that really young.
Look at us. I had hair and everything. There we are in the back of the limousine right after getting married. And watch this, September the 11th, 1993.
Mm-hmm.
And 9/11. Yeah, it was 9/11. It was destined to be something great. And so we've been married now for 29 years.
29 years this September.
Got 3 boys.
3 beautiful boys.
And
grown men.
Yeah. And so we're excited to share our journey. There's a lot that we've learned in marriage, and we want to share all of that with you tonight. Mm-hmm. And so tonight, what we're going to cover is this. We're going to help you. We're going to help you for what you've been dealing with and struggling with for the last couple of decades or the last few years. We are going to attempt to try to get solutions to you so that your marriage can be what you want it to be, to get the shame out of your marriage. What are some things we're going to talk about tonight?
Well, one of the things we're going to talk about is sexual trauma. So that's one of the things that we're going to talk about. Also, shake what your mama gave you. Some of the things that we learned from our moms that were not correct, that we just kind of kept as our own self. We're going to talk about that a bit.
Yeah, we're going to talk about body image. We're going to talk about unprotected sex. So there's going to be a lot of great things that we cover tonight, but we're also going to make sure that you know that we want to spend some extra time with you a little bit later. We have a meetup planned in June, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that. But let's go on and jump into it tonight. What is the secret to being naked and unashamed? I'm glad you asked that question. Our secret that we've learned through life, through trials and errors, good and bad, is that first of all, you got to learn how to be what? Friends. And comfortable in your own skin. Truly becoming best friends. That's the third one, but we'll start there. So What do you mean? Why is it important? Why is that a secret to a happy relationship?
Well, first, if you're not friends, how are you going to be lovers? You're just not going to just jump in the bed with someone and be like, oh, afterwards, that's backwards. You have to build that solid foundation in the very beginning of friendship. I mean, and because when trials come, that is something that you can lean back on.
That's the foundation.
That's a very basic foundation.
And learning how to be comfortable in your own skin. It's so important that you get comfortable with you. Because if you're not comfortable with you, then your spouse can't be comfortable. You have to first love yourself, be comfortable in your own skin, and then become a student of what?
Of each other.
Of each other. We got to learn each other. And guess what? We change. Rhonda's not the same woman she was in her 20s. I'm not the same man I was in my 20s or my 30s. And I keep trying to figure out, did we lose? Are we still on here? Well, good. I keep trying to figure out my wife, and she keeps changing. But it's a good thing because I get a new girlfriend every year.
Is it every year?
She keeps raising the bar. And so I think we lost the slideshow.
No, she's gonna bring back.
Okay, here we go. And then learning from our mistakes. We have to learn from our mistakes. I love what John Maxwell said. John Maxwell said, it's okay to fall down as long as you pick something up while you're down there. And I know if y'all like us, you've had some mistakes. You've had some letdowns in your marriage, but hopefully what did not kill you made you stronger. And so you're here tonight because you want to learn some secrets, how to learn even more from your past. And so we're going to help you with that. And so the next slide, what is the formula, baby, for being naked and unashamed?
Our formula is a strong friendship plus a healthy sexuality plus a healthy self-image times prayer, which equals a naked and unashamed couple.
Did y'all catch that?
Let me say it again.
A strong friendship.
Yes.
Plus a healthy sexuality.
Plus a healthy self-image.
Loving yourself.
Times
prayer.
So those things all together help you to be a totality, a force together. What is it you say?
I'm a movement by myself.
But you're a force when you're together.
When we're together. So we want to get you to that place where you're naked and unashamed. You know, in Genesis, when God created Eve out of Adam, the Bible says he was so excited that he got his wife. He said, finally, bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. God gave them everything they needed in that marriage, everything they needed. He said, but don't eat from that one tree. Guess what happened? The serpent came in, Satan came in and tempted Eve, and she bit from the tree and she gave some to her husband. And when they heard God coming, they went, watch this, and they hid themselves. They tried to cover themselves with leaves. And God says, where are you, Adam? He says, we heard you coming and we hid ourselves because we were naked. Watch this question. God says, who told you you were naked? Can I ask y'all a question tonight? Who told you you were naked? Who told you that sex was a bad thing that you couldn't talk about? Who told you that your body wasn't good enough? Who told you that you had to hide your sexuality? We have to unpack all of that because as a result of the fall, we left the place of being naked and unashamed, and we've been trying to cover up ever since.
Hiding.
We want to pull those covers off tonight and get you back to a place where you're naked and unashamed. So, Rhonda, what are the things that are stopping you? I want to ask y'all a question in the chat. Put it in the chat real quick. What are some things that are stopping you from experiencing the best marriage that you've ever had? What is stopping you from experiencing the best sex in your marriage that you've ever had? If you feel comfortable, comment, put it in the chat, and we're going to see what y'all talking about tonight. If it lines up with what we're getting ready to share. First of all, one of the reasons that we don't get what we desire is a lack of communication. You have not because what?
You ask not.
You ask not. You have to be able to ask for what you want. A lack of communication is one of the things that hurts and causes a marriage to stall. When we first got together, we talked all night, right? When we went on dates, we talked. And now we talk about kids and talk about bills and who's going to do this and who's going to do that. But we have to rediscover how to just talk for the sake of talking.
Right.
And then what's that second one?
The second one is the lack of honesty about past failures.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that we're honest with our spouse and ourselves, because sometimes when we're not going to get it right 9 times out of every time. So there's things that you need to tell your spouse that, hey, I wasn't good at doing this, and this, and just have those honest dialogues with one another.
Yeah. I want to tell them about 100% responsibility.
Okay, absolutely.
So we practice this thing of 100% responsibility, where each of us is 100% responsible for how we respond, react, to any given situation. I can't say my wife made me cuss her out. No. I chose to do that. It's a choice. You have, as a grown person, you have to take responsibility. And so when you look back over the past, can you take ownership about the past mistakes? Can you have full disclosure about how you might have let the other down? That's so important. And then the third one
The third one is lack of sexual consistency.
Yes, lack of sexual consistency. So you want to say a little bit
Oh
about
yeah. So most couples have what I like to call a sex cycle, meaning that if it's every 2 days, every 3 days, but you have to be consistent. The most common number that people have sex.
Don't say it.
Okay.
We're going to ask a question.
Okay. Sorry.
We want to put it in now. We want to put it in the chat real quick. What is the average time a week that a healthy couple has sex? Put it in the chat room real quick. Come on. I want to see if y'all get it right. What is the number of times that a healthy couple has sex? Okay, I see y'all. Y'all on it.
All right, look.
3, 4, 2. Somebody had a comment. It went up too fast. 3, 4, 2.
5 to 7.
4, 3, 5 to. Oh, y'all real healthy.
They must
Marcus,
be like 20.
Marcus, y'all real healthy. 10. Whoa.
3 to 4. Wow. Okay.
All right.
Every
All right.
day. Okay.
So here's the answer. You ready? Drum roll. 3. 3 is the magic number. Yes, it is. And so if you can have sex 3 times a week, that's a wonderful, especially, as you enter middle age, that is a wonderful, wonderful number. But the point is what? Consistency. Absolutely. Y'all have to determine what's best for you. Everybody's different. I saw somebody said 10, somebody said 7. Go, hey, you're my hero 10 times. And so go ahead, Dr. Alexis, put that back up. Let's go to the next slide. So standing in the way of the marriage of your dreams. What is standing in the way of the marriage of your dreams? Did y'all put that in the chat? Did y'all say that?
No.
Can y'all type that real quick? And look, if you don't want to talk about yourself, talk about your friends. What's standing in the way of most people's marriage, having the marriage of their dreams? Just type out one word. Everybody give me one word or 2 words or phrase. What is standing in the way of most people experiencing their best marriage ever? Can y'all put that on there? Come on, type it in for me. Got 13 comments. Let me see if I can get it. Early on in our marriage, I dealt with childhood trauma. I was taught from childhood trauma that sex is for the male. Gotcha. If everybody can mute your phone, mute.
You're on mute, Pastor.
Thank you so much. Y'all can hear me now? Thank you. So loyalty, self-dissatisfaction, love, consistency, and compromise, all of those things can get in the way. We're getting ready to go now and tackle some of those things you mentioned one by one. Let's go into it. So you can have the marriage you work for. How many of y'all know that marriage is work?
Absolutely. Every day.
Raise your hand on your picture. Marriage is work. It's you get out of it what?
What you put in.
What you put in. I tell people all the time, baby, grass is not greener on the other side of the fence. We so busy looking, oh, he look good, she looks good. Oh, they got the marriage I want. Ooh, I want to be with that. No. It's not real grass, it's artificial turf. A lot of times when you're peeping in other people's fences, it's not even real grass. Your grass is greener where you water it. You got to water your own grass. That's why Proverbs 5 says that men, don't waste your seed in the streets. Don't waste your seed, talking about his sperm. Don't waste your seed in the streets. Rather enjoy your wife's sister. Enjoy your wife's vagina, her breast. You don't need, what did Method Man say to Mary J. Blige? No need to front. You got the good stuff at home. When you got the good stuff at home, you ain't got to be looking over the fence. And many of y'all have good stuff at home. You just don't know it. You got to water what you got. So let's go to the next one. Tell them about information versus transformation.
Information versus transformation. Information is all the things that you gathered from friends, from reading, things that you just like you gathered over the years, whether someone spoke over you. But true transformation is when you take that information from whether you read it, whether you experienced it, and really change yourself for the better. So you could have information, but the best thing to do is to take that information so that you become the best version of yourself that you possibly can be.
Yes. Proverbs chapter 5, Seth. Proverbs chapter 5. Listen, transformation is what we want for you. We didn't come here tonight just to give you a bunch of information. Y'all can read books for that, right?
Right.
But I believe that God is going to breathe on this time with us tonight, and you're going to get the marriage that you've been praying for. You're going to get the marriage that you've been desiring because you stopped tonight to invest in your marriage, to take the time to say, we need to work on us. If we're going to be married for the rest of our lives, shouldn't we enjoy it? If we're going to be married the rest of our lives, shouldn't we have some fun? Every year we're married should be sweeter than the year before. And it's possible with intentionality. So we're praying for you to have transformation. Let's go to the next slide. Listen, so tonight, here's what we want you to do first. We want you to shake what your mama gave you. Now, I ain't talking about shaking. We're going to shake that later. We're going to shake that later. But right now, what I'm talking about, babe, is what we picked up from childhood.
Yes, absolutely.
Unlearning bad information that was taught or caught from your parents. So tell them about your childhood. What did you get or not get from your parents when you were younger?
Well, my parents are older parents. So when I was growing up, it just wasn't spoke of in my home at all. So my first knowledge about sex was from biology class.
Wow.
So everything else I had to learn from reading. Now, praise God, I wasn't one of those students that went out and tried to experiment with everything, but it wasn't until later that I was able to have open and honest dialogue with my mom, where she was able to tell me things, which if I knew as a teenager, I would have done that, but I didn't.
My mom did a pretty good job of telling me about sex and educating me on sex, but I caught a lot from the dysfunction with my mom and dad because they divorced when I was 7. Daddy was a Rolling Stone. He was out there, a lot of kids out of wedlock. So I did not have a good picture of what a solid marriage looked like. And unfortunately, my wife married a damaged young man. And so I had to unlearn a lot of what I saw through counseling, through being mentored by other couples. And that's what we want to do for you all, especially on June 10th, when we have our meetup in Memphis. We want to take that whole weekend and go into a deeper dive to help you overcome some of that stuff you need to unlearn. I remember some uncles, some of you men, this might happen to you. When I was 12 years old, turning 13, my uncles came in from Michigan, in Kentucky, and said, oh, you're a teenager now, you're a man now, and threw me some porn magazines. And so that was my introduction to sex, was some porn magazines. And my young brain was not ready to receive all of that information. And it took me years to undo that. Let me go to the next one. I don't want to spend too much time. Giveaway. I got one more thing to say, and then we're going to do another giveaway. There are some things that happen in your family of origin that you don't want to bring in your marriage.
Right.
Can y'all identify with that? If you got some stuff that happened in your childhood that you don't want to follow into your present marriage, can you put a 1 in the comment section? Can you put a 1? I want to just see how many people grew up with some dysfunctional things that you saw growing up that you don't want to follow you into your marriage. Put a 1 in the chat room if that's you.
I think some people may not even know that they're carrying something over from their childhood that was negative, because here you just have mom, dad, or just mom, or just dad, or grandmother. So you're learning from that and you're thinking this is what marriage is supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Go back to that slide real quick. I want to go back and give them that last point. There are some things that were spoken over you, like Rhonda said earlier, that must be reprogrammed or unlearned. How many of you women, you know, your mama, when a little boy called or something, your mama called you fast. All right, go sit down somewhere with your little fast tail. And you thought, what? I guess I gotta dial it back because I don't want to be fast. Or say something like, you're gonna be just like your no good daddy. You know, your mom spoke that over you. And there's been a lot of things that you had to shake off over what people you grew up with spoke over you. So we got to shake what your mama gave you. My grandma called me fast. Grandma was quick to say fast, but you little fast tail. Don't be having, my mom used to say, don't have little fast tail girls calling this. So I got to unlearn. And so here's a mistake. Mistake number 1. Your sex life has to mirror what you saw or learned as a child. That's a mistake. To think that just because your daddy did it, your mama did it, doesn't mean y'all got to do it.
Right.
When you know better,
you do better.
You do better. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help y'all do better. I heard a man say, our sex life is just fine. We don't need any help. Everybody has a room in their house. You know what it is? A room for improvement. I can get better. Rhonda can get better. You can get better. And we get better once we know better. All right. And so we're going to pause for another giveaway. This time, this is for a 30-minute consultation. This is for a free 30-minute consultation with you and your spouse, just to help y'all have that extra push for what you're trying to work on. So here's the question. And the first person to get it right wins. You ready? What is the most powerful sexual organ? Type it in the chat real quick. What is the most powerful sexual organ? Let's see if y'all get this right. Well, wait a minute now. Sharita and Marcus. Oh, wait a minute. No, somebody got them before that. Who got it right? Jessica got it right first. Jessica, you were right. Ding, 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 ding.
Yes.
It's the mind. It's the brain. It's the brain, right? Why is that? Because as a man thinks or as a woman thinks, so is she or he. Your brain is where good sex starts.
Mhm.
If you got wrong information, if you got trauma, if you got a bad filter, then you're not going to be able to see what you need to see in your spouse. There's a whole playground waiting for you that you can't see because your mind is not where it needs to be. So Jessica, you won. And Jessica, email me you and your spouse's name, and we're going to set up a Zoom meeting with you. You want to say something?
Yes. A brain develops, the front cortex of the brain, it for a male is not fully developed until age 25. So before all that, then all the information that came in could possibly be wrong information, because it's not, your brain is not totally developed right to really be mature in your responses or how you react to things. So we have to realize that, okay, I got married at a younger age, so let me get some help so that I can move beyond where I am so that I can have the marriage that I want.
That's good, babe. That's good. We got to unlearn some things. So let's go to the next slide. Body, yada, 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 yada. Y'all know Megan Thee Stallion was in Memphis. Man, I missed that concert. I think people probably been uncomfortable seeing they pastor at the Megan Thee Stallion concert.
Just a little bit.
But body, yada, yada, it's about being comfortable with your body, overcoming low self-esteem concerning your body. Baby, talk about that.
Oh my goodness. As women, we are so programmed of seeing what's going on in social media, comparing ourselves there, or comparing ourselves to other friend girls or people that you just see, or when you're scrolling through and people are putting their best things on Instagram and Facebook or whatever social media you use, you're comparing yourself to that particular person. And then also knowing that God made you just how you are, and you're perfect in his eyes. You're perfect in the eyes of your spouse. Don't try to cut off an arm trying to fit in. That's not good. That's not good.
You know, my wife gave birth to 3 wonderful young men, and I'm forever grateful for the sacrifice that my wife did in giving birth to kids. And she used to have a little stretch mark around her belly button. It looked like a sun, like the sun. It was like. And I said, I would used to kiss her stomach. I said, oh, baby, every time I see this, it reminds me of the fact that you gave me 3 wonderful sons. She said, I don't like it. I said, I like it. I like it because, and so I wanted to assure my wife that I loved everything about her. And y'all, all these Photoshop pictures and
filters,
all these filters and stuff, comparison is the thief of joy. When you compare yourself with other people, you rob yourself of the beauty of who you are. We have to get comfortable with our own body. Body image changes with age and stage. Absolutely. We change, and we got to love ourselves, right? Every stage and every age. I used to have waves that were popping. My hairline was right here, and now it's back here. But I still, my wife reminds me, baby, you're so handsome. I love you, and that's what's necessary. What's the last one?
The last one is about the body image.
Your body image starts with the
conversations that you have with yourself. So almost like every morning you would have affirmations like, hey, you're smart. What was it? You're smart, you're beautiful, you're intelligent, you look good, girl, go out and rock the world today. Boy, go out and score 100. So yes. When we have our meetup in June, we're going to give you some specific exercises on how
to really love yourself. We did this in Jamaica when we took the married couples on a retreat, and people came back with tears in their eyes on how we told them to handle their body image. We're going to talk about that in Memphis when we have our meetup at the Westin Hotel at our Unashamed retreat. You don't want to miss it. We want to go deeper and give you some practical tools on how to overcome negative body images. And so we'll talk about that a little bit later. Mistake number 2 in comparison. Can you talk about that? The comparison thing again.
Okay, well, the comparison again is just comparing yourself to someone else. What works for me is not going to, for my body, may not work for someone else. Or looking at that person, you have no idea what that person is going through or what is under the clothing. You know,
or how much they paid.
Or that's true, how much they paid or how many girdles they have on. So we're comparing ourselves to 20-year-olds and we may be 50.
Let me tell you something funny. So when we get ready to go to the beach, I get a little anxiety because I want to revisit that 6-pack I had when I was 24, but it eludes me. And I go to the gym like 5 days a week. I go hard in the paint. I changed my diet. I got on the calendar. We're going to Cancun and we're going to Florida. And I go on a mission. And then when I get to the beach, guess what happened? I look around at everybody. I'm like, why did I starve myself?
Every time. So why do you do that? Yes, every time.
Why? And I look in the mirror, I'm like, I look good. And so, but I need to have that conversation before I get there. And so do you. You got to have that conversation that I am okay. I like me. Look in the mirror and tell yourself you like me. So let's go to the next one real quick. So the next one, the mistake we make is comparison. Here's somebody said in the chat room earlier that sexual trauma was something that keeps you from experiencing your best marriage. Something happened when you were a child. And guess what, y'all? Our bodies register trauma. And if you don't deal with it, it can show up in your marriage.
It will manifest.
Sexual trauma is anything that disrupts healthy sexual development, bringing distortion and inhibition to personal sexuality and married lovemaking. Let me say this another way. A lot of you haven't experienced your best sex yet because of the trauma you're carrying in your body. Certain smells and textures and songs replay in your mind from when you were originally traumatized as a child. You may get anxious, you know, when you hear a certain song or smell or somebody turns the doorknob. It's things that you don't even remember that are in your body. And sometimes you have to go and get that unpacked through counseling. You know, when I was, my innocence was interrupted at age 6 by an older female cousin. And that messed with my mind on top of uncles giving me porn magazines. And so you have to go back and look at your life and say, was my sexuality interrupted? Have I experienced the best sex yet? Or am I still dealing with unresolved trauma?
Yeah.
If you need some Bible for that, Tamar was the daughter of King David, and her stepbrother tricked her into coming into the room to fix some food while he was sick. When he got in the room, he pulled in the bed and he raped her. And the Bible says that Tamar was a desolate woman from that point on. She lived with her other brother and she was desolate. The word desolate means a wasteland, void of life. And many of us are missing out on the best lovemaking, the best passion, because watch this, somebody desolated us on the inside when we were younger and we never really recovered. But you can. There's hope for you.
Yes.
If I can recover, you can recover. And we're going to, when you come to Memphis, June 10th, we're going to go deeper, real deep on how we recover from sexual trauma, because we want you to do what, babe?
To be able to have the best
sex
of your life and just to be a better person for your spouse.
Yeah.
This is my person. This is the person that God has designed for me. So we want to be together as long as we're on this earth.
And my wife supported me through my recovery. And I'm here today. I'm a better man because of Rhonda Spencer and the patience and the love that she had. And that's what it's going to require for your marriage as well. There are sights, sounds, and smells I talked about that can trigger you. Unresolved sexual trauma can leave you desolate on the inside, but that doesn't have to be your story. Here's the mistake we make: ignoring the past, believing that feelings buried alive eventually die. Feelings buried alive don't die, they resurface. And so they resurface in angry outbursts, They resurface in rigidness and in sex. You're afraid to try anything because you're afraid to let go of your control. Because when you let go of your control, when you were a child, see that inner child. I'm going too deep.
Okay.
We're gonna go deeper when we have our meetup, and we're gonna give you some practical stuff that can really help you come out of that trauma and embrace the best sex of your life. Unprotected text. You want to talk about that?
Yes, the unprotected text is the misuse of scripture that suppresses the beauty of sex that God meant for marriage. Like,
sorry about that. Keep going.
we'll be right back. I'm sorry about that. So when things happen, it happens. But knowing that we don't want to misconstrue what the Bible says about sex. God wants us to have sex. And there is everything in the scripture that tells about it, but God desires for us to have sex. And yes, one of the things of having sex was for just procreation, but also for recreation.
Yeah. So we have to make sure that we talk about those things. And many times what we learned in church has robbed us of what God meant for us to have in the Bible. Some of the most stringent conservative churches, the holiness church, remember the girls who have to wear the jeans, skirts all the way down to the ankles and their shirt button all the way to the top. Some of those were some of the most promiscuous people, because it was not natural to suppress all of that sexuality. The church has been real good to tell us what we can't do, but the church hasn't been good in telling us what we can do. That's why Rhonda and I took it upon ourselves to write the book Naked and Unashamed, because we wanted to free people up to embrace the fullness of their sexuality that God meant for them. In 1 Corinthians chapter 7, it says that the marriage bed is strong enough to handle all of the desires that come with sex in marriage. The husband is supposed to satisfy the wife, and the wife is supposed to satisfy the husband. And not giving your spouse sex is a sin. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 7, he says, do not deny each other sex except
by
mutual consent and for prayer. And watch this, Paul says, only for a little while, because if not, you give the devil a foothold. People can smell when your spouse is horny or thirsty or lacking. They pick up on it at the water cooler. That's why they're telling your wife, "Ooh, your hair is so pretty," or telling your husband, "You've been working out." You got to be careful that you don't send your spouse to work or out in the marketplace lacking from sexual fulfillment. You got to make sure. The Bible wants you to have sex. That's why, again, in Proverbs 5, it says, enjoy your wife. Enjoy the wife of your youth. And so let's move on to the next one. Mistake number 4. You don't relax and enjoy. Believing that God doesn't want you to enjoy sex, that's a mistake. God made sex for procreation and recreation. As a matter of fact, did you know that the woman's clitoris, the only purpose of the clitoris is for pleasure? And the clitoris has more nerve endings than any other place in the body, and it's strictly for pleasure. God wouldn't have put that there if he didn't want women to enjoy it.
And do you know that 7 minutes of sex equals about an hour and a half of working out?
Well, I'm gonna quit going to the gym, just work out with you.
Well, come on.
don't say that you ain't gonna do it now. Oh my goodness. Listen, is it time for another giveaway yet? Not yet. All right. So let's talk about this one. This one really surfaced with Will and Jada. Entanglements and betrayal. Y'all, when did Will Smith's frustration start? Did it start with Chris Rock?
No.
Or did it start at the Red Table Talk when Will had to tell the world, explain to the world how his wife had sex with a young man that was staying with his son? That had to be humiliating. It's one thing to experience betrayal from your spouse and just y'all know about it. But can you imagine explaining an affair to the world? That is probably one of the most humiliating things that could ever happen. And a lot of us who did not have a public disclosure still feel that hurt from the other letting us down. And it happens, right? Jesus talked about adultery. He says that you heard that a man should not commit adultery. But he says, I say this to you, that if you even look at a woman lustfully, you've already committed adultery. So Jesus raises the standard of adultery from a physical act to just thinking about it. And if you could look back over your marriage, you've had times when you entertained another person that was not your spouse, either in your head or through conversation. Emotional affairs are just as dangerous as what?
Oh, they're more dangerous than a physical affair. So emotional affairs, because it takes a minute before you get to that part where you're bonding mentally with someone.
Let me ask y'all a question real quick. I want to engage you in conversation real quick. Can a marriage survive adultery? I want your honest opinion. Can a marriage survive adultery? Yes or no? Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Can a marriage survive adultery?
Yes.
Sometimes. Yes. Let me tell you this.
No.
Yes, it can. Not fully. You're right, Antonio. Not fully. It's never the same, but it can be healed over time. It takes intentionality. It takes forgiveness. It takes grace.
It takes a lot of work.
And this one is really tough, right? And so this is why we want to have a meetup with you in June 10th. We want to spend 2 days with you so that we can go deeper and give you some tools on how do you recover from that affair? How do you recover from betrayal? It hurts. It hurts because it violates that loyalty and that closeness that you said you were going to do when you said your vows. But I love in the Old Testament, God tells one of the prophets to go marry a prostitute because he wants to show how he felt when Israel played the prostitute with him and worshiping other gods. And that prophet has to marry a prostitute who's had children by other people to symbolize what Israel has done to God. What God is trying to show is he still loves Israel, even though Israel had cheated on him. And he embraces Israel, even though she played the harlot. And at some point, we've let each other down, whether it's emotional or physical, we've let each other down, but your marriage can make it. Your marriage is worth fighting for. And watch this, it can be even stronger afterwards. And we're going to show you how to do that.
Absolutely.
Sometimes after we've been married for a while, we wonder if we still are sexually attractive. And so we stick a foot out there, we smile at somebody, and you got to make sure that you flirt with one another.
Oh, that's so important. Don't let your spouse leave the house in the morning without complimenting him.
Or her.
You have to compliment and be sincere about it. Make sure you give him or her that big passionate kiss, because that's going to linger with them all day. So they have that foundation of no one coming or stepping to them throughout the day, because you started the morning off that way.
Yeah. So mistake number 5, believing that your marriage is over after experiencing betrayal. It's not over. It's not over till God says it's over. And I believe that through work and counseling and some of the tools that we're going to give you on how to survive the affair. When we meet up in June, we're going to go deep. The doors are going to be shut. We're going to be in an intimate setting, and it's only going to be a handful of couples that we're going to work with. And so if you want to really work on some of those hard things that we haven't, I saw Pastor Anthony Jackson said, I've talked about it, but I haven't talked through it. We want to talk through it with you behind closed doors in confidence. And we're going to invest the time in our marriages to get past the hurt. How many of y'all would like to get past hurt? If you'd like to get past hurt, type a 1 in the chat.